Yo, hey, good morning. We're live from the patio in Colorado. Hey, Dan, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you saying hello in the comments. And yeah, we're here live every Friday morning because we love plein air painting. And we're trying to work on our skills. We're trying to get educated, motivated, inspired for plein air landscape painting. And we do that by doing some kind of just chilling out, having some coffee, talking. We have a live Q&A at the end and discussing, a few tips in a short time, just to kind of touch base and get us motivated. And so thanks for joining us. And so today we're going to be talking about light, elements of light, and so important to a painting. And I really feel like this, if you haven't heard this stuff before, stay tuned. I think it's really, really going to help you. And to help me today, I've got one of my favorite art students, and she just continues to outshine all of the other. I mean, the talent is just oozing. Just beautiful. I can't even say enough about her. Come on over here. It's my daughter, Kate. Okay, so she's going to help us out today. This is Kate. She's 13. Hi. And she's an amazing drawer, sketcher. She does figures and just extremely talented. But she's just now getting into painting. So I would say you've never really done a plein air painting outside, have you? Like a landscape painting? Yeah. So this will be the first time she's put brushstrokes on a canvas outside. So it's exciting. And I think it'll be good for some of you that are just beginning or thinking about beginning, because, if little Kate here can do it, you can do it. And so I'm going to show you the finished painting real quick that we did last week. I don't spend a whole lot of time on these paintings. I try to paint them a little bit before the show and then a little bit after. And then we talked about how to finish, kind of washed out there in the light, how to finish strong with a painting. And we did sunflowers and grapes, and it turned out pretty good. I think I'm a little too strokey in here. I like to say sometimes it's really, really fun to paint sunflowers. If you haven't, give it a shot. They're just beautiful, and the shadows, and this is kind of sunflower season, man. It just reminds me of like late summer, harvest season, fall coming up here. My grapes are a little bit too big. My proportion, admittedly, a little bit too big, but I kind of say that on every show because due to painting outside and the camera angle of a laptop, I want to be able to bring everything close to you guys so you can see it. But the three things were to look at your darkest dark, your lightest light, and then any accents that you might want to put on, like a highlight or calligraphy, and then like a power stroke. Say something. We did our power stroke, I think, up here, light and dark and just a thick. Say something bold, make your colors sing. So that was last week. And let's if you're watching on replay, which many of you do, welcome, and leave us a comment, say hello, and feel free to skip around in this video to the information that you need. I put timestamps on the video, and we have plenty of other landscape paintings done in the mountains of Colorado that I think you will really enjoy, tutorials, educational demos, if you will. So hey, if you're in the chat, say hello. If you're watching, just say hello in the chat and let me know how I can help you guys during this painting. Let me know if there are videos that I can do for you. We just did one that was how to paint greens, and I think that was real good. It just released a week ago. If you haven't seen that, check it out. Here is our quote of the day before we get painting, and it is very relevant to what we're talking about. It is, the real subject of every painting is light. Well, that's what we're talking about today, and that was by Claude Monet, the father of Impressionism himself. And as you all know, he was a painter of light. He created that kind of painting, if you will. And I thought it was kind of cool because I was reading about it, and this critic asked him about a painting, and the critic said, "Hey, what was your subject matter?" And he said, "Well, thinking maybe, okay, you'd say a mountainside or hillside." And he said, "Well, the subject matter was the light." And so, man, so cool, so revolutionary. And so we are going to get in here in a second. I want to tell you that this live stream is brought to you by the new Facebook group called Learning Plein Air Group. That's right. We started a new Facebook group. Haven't been a big Facebooker myself, admittedly, but I think it's going to be a good avenue, another avenue to inspire, educate, and motivate each other. And so join that group or tell some people about it if you would. So why is a landscape oil painter out here on the patio painting fruit? I was trained in Russian Impressionism, and I painted, before I could paint mountains, I had to paint apples. And there's a reason, because you learn to draw, you learn about shapes and pieces, and you learn about your techniques. And so I prefer you do it in the studio, where you have some consistent lighting. I do it out here just because I'm a plein air painter, and I got this nice patio here, and I love it. And I just love to be outside in the sunshine. But well, I'm going to put Kate in the driver's seat here. You'll hear my voice because I'm going to guide her through this. And as she paints this apple, I might actually quickly get rid of what we have here. Is I drew anytime you draw or start your painting, I draw. So these are, I talk about the 4 P's: pieces, placement, proportion, perspective. Before you paint, you got to draw right. And if you don't have a good drawing, you're not going to have a successful painting. So what I did is I put in the top of the apple, and the bottom of the apple. And what we could do is I'll just erase that for Kate so that she can better see the apple itself. And then a structure line. So I put an axis or a structure line through the apple. You may not be able to tell yet. The core is right here. So the apple is kind of sitting on its side facing the sun. So we're going to really show that today in this painting. So I want to get rid of this just so she can focus on the apple itself. Okay, so we have shadow. I'm going to put her in the driver's seat. I'm out. So let's get Kate painting and let's learn something here. Stay motivated. Again, if you're in the chat, say hello. All right, Kate, grab a brush. Why don't you grab that red brush over there? And then we're going to work on talking about elements of light. So we're going to work on the shadow portion of the apple first. So that would be this whole side of the apple right here. And there are a couple things inside the shadow that we need to talk about. So I've got a few colors pre-mixed up for her, but let's first go with, there's one thing in the shadow that you need to know about. I guess it'd be point number 1 here is, on the shadow, is compare the shadow to the cast shadow. Organically, they're the same thing. The cast shadow and the shadow, they're connected, but they're going to be slightly different. Okay, but compare them. I see the cast shadow as cooler. I see this as darker in value. And that's what she's going to paint right now, the core dark. So that's your tip number 1 here with light and shadow. There's something called a core dark, and for us, it's at the top of the apple. And that's the part where light does not get in. So go ahead, Kate, and paint that core dark. And we'll use this color that we mixed up here, which was ultramarine blue, a little bit of cerulean blue to really cool it up. And then I think we put a little yellow ochre in there just to green it up a bit. But it won't be very chromatic. It's just going to be dark. Yeah, and you want to just follow the shape. Exactly. Good. Just use broad brush strokes and just think in terms of a shape. We're not painting an apple. Perfect. Yeah, I like it. And so that's where the core dark is. And we could do maybe another stroke like right there because it kind of is a triangle shape. The core dark, it's here. And then it's kind of this little apple pie triangle shape. And so let's go ahead and paint. So that's your shadow, right? And then that's the core dark inside the shadow. Let's go ahead and paint the cast shadow because we were comparing those two right there. And I didn't mix up for that yet, so I'll just do that right here. I'm going to go into some, I think you guys can see the palette. I'll go into some, a little bit of titanium white, and then let's go with a little bit of cobalt blue. Okay, the shadow is very cool. And then I'm going to use permanent rose to kind of make this violet color, this cool violet color. And I'm going to put a little bit of, to gray it down or take the chroma out of it, you want to go with a little bit of orange, cat orange, the complementary color of violet. And so that's how we mix up that color. So go ahead, Kate, and just kind of throw that in. Just look at the right shape in the right place. Oh, yeah, there's paper towels in the thing there. Sure. Yeah, and I would do that. She's wiping her brush. I would, we get that question quite a bit. Is like, how often do you clean your brush, clean your palette? I mean, if you're trying to make clean strokes, you got to clean your brush off before or change brushes, And so that's what she's doing now. So go ahead and dip into that and then just kind of fill in that shape. That's pretty close in color. I like it. It's about the right value. It's not quite as dark as the shadow on the apple. So whether you're painting a barn or a face or a mountain or a car, it doesn't matter. All these principles apply. So when you're looking at the shadow of the barn, you want to compare it to the cast shadow of the barn. And you want to ask yourself, is it warmer or cooler? Is it lighter or darker? And that's just what we did there. We made that cooler, but we made it lighter in value. And she can use the shadow. Go ahead and use your shadow color to carve out the shape. Look at the bottom of the apple and look at the shape. An apple's not a perfect round object. So use your shadow color to kind of come in here and carve out the shape of the apple. The shadow should go all the way underneath the apple. And then just look at the apple and use the shadow to carve into the apple shape as it rounds up. There you go. Perfect. I love it. And then just bring this, I kind of did that, but just connect the shadow to connect the cast shadow to the shadow of the apple. Okay, cool. Again, if you're just joining us, welcome. We are working on tips and techniques for elements of light to become better plein air landscape painters. And let's go on to another component. And we've done the core dark. We've done the shadow. Let's go into what we call the halftone. Okay, the halftone is very, very important if you haven't heard of this. And it's where it's neither in the light or in the shadow. It's, yeah, exactly, where the light turns on an object. So whether it's a barn or an apple or a face, light is always going to be turning and changing. And so this is completely washed out. The light portion is completely washed out, and the shadow is in shadow, but there's a part of the apple, and it's kind of that Granny Smith color that you think of. It's green, And so she's going to dip into this color right here. Go ahead and do that, Kate. And then, yeah, that middle green color right there, which is really cad yellow light. We might have to adjust that a bit, but it's a brilliant green color. And then I tell you what, where it lives is kind of like, I think the way I would paint it, like the way the shadow goes is it curves this way around the apple. Like it's a lot of shadow there, and then it lessens here. So the halftone is going to be this band right there. So go for it. Yeah. Oh yeah. I think let's put a little bit of yellow ochre in there. It's almost too brilliant over here. Yellow ochre, just a bit. Mix it in there. It's almost too Granny Smith, too brilliant. Yeah, that's enough. Don't over mix it. Yeah, perfect. And then go for it again. Yeah, I like that better. It just kind of took the chroma and the punch out of it a bit. Yeah, that's good. we got some horse flies around here in the country. Maybe just make it a little bit thicker of a band out there on that side, but you're doing great. Already you can kind of see the apple coming together. So that's your halftone. It neither lives in the light or the dark. Okay, very good. That's your halftone. So always include a halftone. If you're painting a tree, you see my tree painting video. If you haven't, go ahead and watch that. But I talk about that when you're painting a tree. You want to paint the light, the halftone, the shadow, and the cast shadow. So let's move on. Let's fill in the rest of that shadow side of the apple with this color right here, which is not quite as dark as the core dark at the top of the apple. So as light sneaks into this part of the apple, it becomes more of the Granny Smith color, but it's still in shadow. So yeah, let's go ahead and you can see it, yeah, at the bottom of the apple. Exactly, right there. Love it. Beautiful. Yeah. And just see them as pieces, You can blend the lines, if you want. But for now, this is good to just paint in pieces like this, because that's really what you're doing outside when you're painting a mountain or a barn or a car or a building. Just see it as pieces of light and color. All right, tell you what, let's go for reflected light. So reflected light is the next part of elements of light here. And reflected light is basically, it lives in the shadow, but it's light coming from another source bouncing into the shadow. So my guess is that this reflected light down here is probably light bouncing from the tablecloth into the bottom of the apple, and then maybe a little bit of sunshine too. So it's like this, it lives right here, and it's this like lime green, brilliant, like reflected light color, if you know what I'm talking about. And so, like I said, if you're painting a person's face or a tree, there could be some reflected light down there. So let's go ahead, Kate, and mix up. I never did mix up a color for reflected light, so let's just do it together as everybody watches, and let's get some titanium white. I'll kind of do it real quick. If you guys have questions, you can fire them at me. I'm looking at the comments. I will answer them at the end with a live Q&A in about 15 minutes, but let's go. So it's going to be very, titanium white is the base color just to start, because it's going to be real light. And then let's go with a little bit of cad yellow light. And then I have phthalo green on my palette. You don't have to, you could use like cerulean blue But I'm going to try that. I'm going to stand up here. And then just so I can mix a little bit better. A little bit more. Yeah, it's like this really chromatic, like reflected light color. Do you think that is about it, Kate, or what? Okay.
That's good.
Okay, so try it with your brush. Just put it, it's going to start in the shadow, and it's going to kind of come up, but it's not going to take up that much space. It's just going to, it's really at the bottom of the apple. It's just light that's bouncing into the shadow. Yeah, there you go. Good. Light bouncing into the shadow from the tablecloth in all likelihood. And then the apple, you know, bouncing off the green of the apple. I like that. We could go even a little bit more yellow, I think, like more titanium white and more cad yellow light. Try that side of the pile, like right there, and just see. Yeah. Hope you guys are having a good plein air painting week, at least watching some videos if you're not out to, you know, able to paint. But let me know in the chat where you're painting or what you're working on and painting this week as we encourage each other. Okay, cool. That's your reflected light. And then what else do we have here? So that's your reflected light right there. I think that's good. And then let's do this. You see me in previous lives here do this, that underneath the apple, there's another kind of a core dark that lives in the shadow underneath the apple that we're going to put in that helps. I'm going to put it in because I didn't really, I'm going to go with just pure phthalo blue, maybe a little bit of alizarin crimson. You see it?
Right here.
Yeah, go ahead and put it in. Use this smaller brush. And it's not, it doesn't take the whole shape of the apple, but it's where the apple touches the tablecloth and there's no light that gets in. Yeah. Yeah. And that helps. If you can see that just really lifted the apple off the table and made it look real lifelike. That in combination with the reflected light, what we're doing is we're really just forming our original blocking or original abstract shapes and colors. And now we're just forming with light, you know? So let's go ahead and we talk about the shadow. We talked about the core dark. We talked about the halftone. We talked about reflected light and the cast shadow. So let's look at light on the object. So again, if you're painting a barn or a person or a tree, the thing that's in direct sunlight, if you have a sunshiny day like today, it's going to be bleached out and washed out. It's not really the true color of the object. So it lives over here because it's in direct sunlight. So let's go ahead, Kate, and paint that right there. We might have to adjust that color as I look at it, but it'll get us pretty close.
Do you want me to paint over top of the core?
Yeah, paint over top of the core, and then we'll put the core in. That's pretty good. Dip into more of this cad yellow light right there. It needs to be cooler and more yellow, just from what I'm seeing. A little bit more. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Perfect. And then you just want to follow the shape of the light. So just don't paint the apple. Paint the light on the apple. Paint the light on the tree, on the barn. Good. And then what we can do, I see it sitting a little more. Can I grab your brush just for a second, honey? Mm-hmm. I'm going to go a little bit of titanium white and then a little more like cad yellow light. And then I just want to form and shape it a little more because the apple's sitting on its side. So I'm going to take a big old stroke like this. I'm going to start here. I'm going to come around and then the light goes under like right there. So just by doing that, does that look a little bit more like it, Kate, you think?
Yeah.
The shape of that light? So now you have the apple kind of a little bit more like a satellite dish, if you will, kind of facing up like that. Do you want to put the core in, the core part?
Sure.
Because I'll tell you what, before we do that, there's something else that lives in the light section of whatever you're painting, and that's the highlight. So whether you're painting a river or a barn or a mountain or whatever it is, if the light is shining on it, it's going to be reflected light from either the sky or the sun. And so the shinier an object is, the more crisp and visible and sharp that edge is going to be. And it's right here on the apple. It's just that shiny little speck that you see on the apple when it shines in the sunlight. So we're going to paint that next. Oh, let's dip into this pile here, titanium white. Yeah, maybe put a little more white in there. Dip into more titanium white. Big, yeah, and then just a little yellow. There you go. Don't over mix it. Yeah. And then tell you what, you can use that brush. Let's use this smaller brush because this is kind of a detail. This is like the end of the painting kind of thing that you would do. It's an accent. And so we talked last week about that, how to finish your painting strong.
It's blue.
Does it? Yeah.
Oh, well.
Go ahead. So do you see it, Kate? Do you
Yeah.
see where it is? So
Yeah.
make sure you get the right angle of that because that'll help describe that form and that side of the apple.
Right here.
Yep. It just rounds a little bit with the apple, like right there, that line, that shiny line. Yep. Beautiful. I like it. It's about right. I wouldn't really want to adjust it too much more. We could go, let me try to push it a little bit and just see what it looks like if we go a little more titanium white and then tad yellow medium and just kind of push the color a bit. Like if we just, either way, we shared that stroke. That was good. It looks good. Let's go ahead and put the core in because that'll help really kind of finish and define that side of the light portion. And again, if you guys are watching by replay, go ahead and drop us a comment. And if you have not yet subscribed and you enjoy plein air painting, go ahead and subscribe. Yeah, I would use the smaller one here, right here. And for this core, we'll mix up. It is a greenish color, but it's very deep green. Let's go into phthalo green. We'll just make a new pile, maybe even like phthalo blue. So it's this very, very cool green color, maybe a little red. And then maybe a little yellow ochre. It's not like terribly, it is dark, but it's not as dark as the core dark, All right, let's just try that. And then same thing, just one brush stroke really, the shape of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just right beside that highlight. And it's just, you can kind of round it a bit to show that the core is, yeah. Good. I like it. And if you wanted to do, okay, very good. And if you wanted to do the stem, like you could just take a dark alizarin crimson with your palette knife and then just kind of show that coming out like that with your palette knife. And then on the edge of the stem, you're going to have some light, from a highlight on the stem right there. So you can do that as well, just to show that. There you go. So we're cruising through. Let's just assess, stand back and look and just see if we got everything. Sometimes there's reflected light that bounces into the cast shadow. And then here's a tip if you haven't heard me say this before, but me, I don't really love rules in painting, but if it's a warm light, you're most likely going to have a cool shadow. So your cast shadow has to be cooler than everything in the light, right? I'll say that again. Warm light, cool shadow. If it's a cool light, like on a rainy day, but there's light, it's often going to be a warm shadow. Okay, so I think that'll help you tremendously if you just get that point right there. But today we have warm light, cool shadow. But there, we could throw some of our little reflected light color into, because I see it into the cast shadow. It's not that brilliant, so we'd want to like gray it out a little bit. I'll have Kate mix it in a little bit so that it doesn't stand out, but that color is in there. There is reflected light that goes into the cast shadow, is what I'm trying to say. Awesome. And then if you guys haven't downloaded my free video, it's a free unlisted private video of the 4 P's: pieces, placement, proportion, perspective, how I start a painting. It's in the description. The link is in the description of this video. Go ahead and click it, put in your email address, and then I send out a newsletter every week or two with tips and techniques that I think will be helpful. So hey, we're looking pretty good. I think we've got everything. What we could do is stop there, and we could take some questions on Q&A. And I want to thank you, Kate, sweetheart.
Thanks,
you did great. I'm just going to take your driver's seat just for a second as we do a quick Q&A here, and we'll respect these people's time. But I think it's good. I like what she did here. We got cast shadow, we've got shadow, which includes the core dark, reflected light. Then we've got the halftone, the real color of the Granny Smith apple kind of coming in there. And then the light portion, which also includes the highlight. So those are elements of light. If you can kind of nail those when you're out plein air painting, or at least a few of them, if you see them, I think it's really going to take your paintings, to the next level. So, hey, Bob, good morning. Great to see you. And I hope great to see your teaching technique and very talented. I think she's a very talented student as well, Bob. she really is. I thought that was funny how I introduced her, but she is truly gifted. In fact, I think we're going to get her to start a YouTube channel with sketching and drawing. So glad you're with us again, Bob. Hope you're having a good week. Are you painting, Bob, anywhere this week, or are you just kind of relaxing? Let me know what you're up to. It's good to see you again. And so give me a Q&A if you have any. Otherwise, I'm going to read from emails I get or comments from subscribers and to get us going with a question. But here's one that we get quite a bit, and maybe you struggle with the same thing. And then Teresa has a question first, so let's go ahead and get that. So is the temperature of the form shadow determined the same way? The temperature of the form shadow. You mean the temperature of that shadow? Is that what you're talking about, Teresa? Just try to make sure before I answer that I completely understand you. Determine the same way. Yeah, I mean, let me know if I'm not answering this correctly, Teresa, but basically the shadow of the apple and the cast shadow, I see them as connected, but within them, you got to treat them differently, right? You're going to have light bouncing into the cast shadow, but then I compare the shadow color of the apple or the tree to the color of the cast shadow. I see this as cooler, but this is darker. So yeah, you're asking a very important question, and it's about value and temperature. And that's how I look at things is, all right, do I make it lighter or darker? Do I make it warmer or cooler as I go through my abstract phase? And so I hope that answered. If not, let me know, Teresa. But yeah, I treat all the shapes like that. I just kind of ask myself, okay, is my shape accurate? Is my proportion accurate? That's why I do the 4 Ps. Is the placement of it in the right place? Is the tree in the right place? Is it in the right boundary or perimeter? Does it live, so same thing, the light piece, the shadow piece, the cast shadow piece. That's why we paint pieces and colors and shapes like this. But hey, Bob from France. That's right. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Bob's from France. So it's evening time in France, Bob, right? So are you having like some wine and cheese right now or what, man? It's like, it's 10 hours ahead, I think. My brother lives in Switzerland. I used to play pro hockey in Switzerland. So I think that France is like maybe 8 hours ahead of US time. So I'm guessing it's 5 o'clock. You're probably having like wine and cheese right now, man. That's so jealous. Would love to go to France. My little Kate would love to go there too. But here's a yeah. So I'll right. Okay, the shadow on the apple. I'm trying to dig in and answer Teresa's question more accurately. I apologize, Teresa, but yeah, the shadow of the apple is basically it's treated the same way. So the shadow of the apple is right here, and then within the shadow, you have all these different things happening, right? You have reflected light. We're talking about light today, light and shadow, and how to treat that. So you have to think the shadow portion. To make it look realistic, whether you're painting a face or whatever, it doesn't matter. There's going to be that core dark where no light gets in. So yeah, I that's how I treat the shadow. That's how I look at it. If it's a tree, oftentimes there's a core dark in the tree. Right here, there's one where I made Kate paint this under the apple because no light gets in there, and that helps. If you do the shadow right, as I'm guessing you already know this, Teresa, but if you do the shadow right, the light gets all the credit. And that's why I do my shadows first, really, in plein air landscapes, because I try to get those pieces, and all the shadows are connected organically. Try to see them as such. And then when you put the light in, that's just kind of like the gravy that just goes on, and then that really makes it pop and bring it together. But yeah, so the halftone is in the shadow as well. Or it's not, the halftone's not in the shadow. You have the core dark, and then you have reflected light, and the highlight lives in the light section. So hope that answered your question, Teresa, but that's how I treat the shadow portion of anything, as I look at, hey, is there any light bouncing into there? What's the temperature of it? What's the value of it? But this other question that we get quite a bit, and I don't know if you guys struggle with this, is that when I'm out plein air painting, how do you handle the changing light outdoors? If people feel like they can't keep up with what they see when it's changing. And I would say that if you have a partially sunny day or a cloudy sunny day, in and out, stick with your plan. So if you can see that the sun will come back out, stick with your plan of light and shadow. Make it a light and shadow painting. If the light's not out, you can either paint by memory and keep going, or what I do is sometimes I'll take a break. I'll just take my lunch break right then for 20 minutes and I'll watch the light. And when it comes back out, I get back to work, you know. Now, if it started as sunny and then it turned overcast and there's no way it's going to come back to you and you're kind of sitting there thinking, oh crap, what do I do now? You know, then switch gears, go with your overcast, you know, change your light a little bit and adjust and go with what you see. Because, I mean, that if you're not too far into the painting, you know, is what I would do. So I guess lastly on that, what I would say is don't stress about it, man. Just have fun. You're not there to record, you know, every nuance and every, you know, Monet was all about that. If you remember him, he stressed himself almost to the point of death, you know, because he couldn't keep up with the light. Well, I don't think we need to, you know, we don't need to do that. But what you want to do, what I always talk about, if you kind of would agree with me on this, is I try to capture a mood, an impression, and an emotion. That's how I gauge a successful plein air landscape painting. It's not, you know, did it look like a masterpiece? I mean, yes, we all want to walk away with a masterpiece, but did I catch the mood of that kind of fall day in the aspen forest, or that sunny day in midwinter with the light and shadow of the snow on the mountain? You know, did I catch that impression? So that's how I would answer that question. Don't stress out about it. Try to capture the gesture, the mood, the impression of what you, and don't feel like you have to keep up with every changing light tick, you know. But if you have other questions, I'm open. Teresa, I hope I answered your question. Thanks for asking. And yeah, the temperature, we were talking about that temperature of the shadow. I just asked, is it warmer or cooler? And what the temperature of the shadow compared to the temperature of the cast shadow. You know, that's kind of the main thing. I see this as cooler. I see this as a little bit, there's warmth in there because there's warmth coming up from reflected light, you know, but that's a judgment call. You just do that yourself. You figure it out yourself, you know, whatever you're painting. It doesn't always have to be like that. The cast shadow can be warmer in temperature than the shadow, for sure, depending on the light.
Isn't there something where, like, if the thing you're painting is dark, then the shadow is lighter or something?
If the thing you're painting is dark, the shadow's lighter?
Wasn't there something about that?
I mean, it depends, you know, you just have to read it, you know, and so like I was saying, if it's a cool rainy day, but there's still light, you know what I'm talking about? Oftentimes, if you look, those shadows are going to be warmer. That's my general rule. Warm light, cool shadows, cool light, warm shadows. So there you go with that. So do you guys have any other questions? Simplifying the fall colors. Yeah, Dan, that's the next video, man. We're going out here in Colorado. It's peak aspen, you know, or birch if you're from the East Coast. But in about a week, I was up there painting. I did an overnight trip a couple nights ago, and it's just starting to turn. So my next long form videos on YouTube are going to be exactly that. They're going to be how to paint fall colors, how to mix and paint fall colors. And then we're going to do, I think the next video might be how to paint aspen trees or birch trees if you're from the Northeast. So would that help you out, Dan, if we did those videos? Is that kind of what you're asking? Let me know. And Bob is saying it's no wine and cheese yet. It's 5:30. Yeah, exactly. So I think you're 8 hours ahead of where I'm at. But man, would love to go. He's in Bordeaux, France, right? Right, Bob? Like the wine Bordeaux? Is that where that is? But that's where my inspiration comes from for painting, is the French Impressionists. So I talk about them all the time. But yeah. Oh, the Dan saying Alberta Rockies. Oh man, do you live in the Alberta Rockies? That's pretty unbelievable. I grew up in Ontario, Canada, and the only thing to really paint there are cornfields or the Great Lakes. You know, Lake Huron, Lake Michigan were close by to where I grew up. But man, I'll tell you what. I mean, the Rockies are right here across from my house, and like Banff and up above Calgary and British Columbia. I've never been to British Columbia, but would love to paint the mountains in BC. Yeah. Bordeaux. Yeah, he's in Bordeaux. Hey, Dan Patrick is here. Thanks for joining us, Dan. Appreciate it. We were just talking about elements of light and shadow. Don't know if you missed all that. If so, just watch it on replay, buddy. But Dan is from South Dakota, and he was the guy in 2 or 3 videos ago where we did top 2 beginner struggles with plein air landscape painting. That was that was Dan. He came down and did private lesson for a few days. Man, did we ever have fun painting some nice scenery here in Colorado. But thanks for joining us, Dan. And I know Dan just started selling his work, which is cool. He's somewhat of a beginner plein air painter. So I don't know if, oh, wow. Just back from Jasper. Wow. Yeah. I mean, you know, I love plein air landscape painting. It's unbelievable. I can't wait that's why I've been doing this show in the summer, to be honest, truthfully, is I just kind of said to I love to be out there. I don't like to be here, but we've had the California wildfire smoke. I don't know if you guys have, but I mean, the skies every day. I can't even see the mountains unless I'm in the mountains. And so, Jasper, that's wow. Yeah, but I did these shows just to work on our skills, you know, because I kind of said to myself, you know, my original training was all about painting apples and fruit and still life and pieces and color and shape and temperature and learning it so that when I walk out, you know, the Russian impressionists where I learned under, they said, if you can paint an apple or a still life, you can paint anything. And at first I was like, well, that doesn't make sense, but I wanted to get back to kind of my training, my roots, and I'm hoping that it'll help you. And I actually want to make these Friday shows a little bit more casual, like interacting like we're doing now, rather than me, you know, feeling stressed out about going through all these points. But you let me know what helps you, man. If you'd rather have like back and forth conversation and chill out and paint, or if you'd rather me just kind of go after it and point after point after point. Maybe a combination of both, you know. But if you guys don't have any other questions, you know, let me know. If you do, I'm here. I'll help any way I can. I don't have all the answers, but I have some answers. Like I say, I've been painting for quite a while. I've sold my paintings. I'm a full-time artist, and I've sold in galleries. I'm doing a private commission right now as we speak. And, you know, it's a journey, man. Plein air painting is a journey, and I have much to learn. But if I can help you in any way, or we can inspire and encourage each other, you know, that's what it's all about. So Kate did an awesome job. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. She really did. She's been asking me lately, you know, like, hey, Dad, can we do an oil painting in your studio? Like, I think the last one you did, you liked I think we did a Top of the Pines painting up there, and you liked that, and she replicated it, you know, on her own, and I helped her with that. So I'm kind of hopeful that she will turn into a plein air painter, but she's a gifted drawer and just loves doing that. So thanks. But yeah, thanks for joining us, Dan, and blessings to you, buddy. We'll leave it there if you guys don't have any other questions. And what I'll do is I'll put this video up here next, the one that I just did on greens, you know, before you paint landscape greens, know this, I think it's called, or something like that, but I'll put it up here, click on there. And, you know, God bless you guys. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate the conversation, interaction, and hope you have a good weekend. And click on here, and I'll catch you over here right now as we go paint greens. All right, you take care. See you in the mountains.